So I've had a ton of messages asking about a certain bass I was lucky enough to get my hands on a few weeks ago. So I wanted to make a quick video about it because frankly, this bass is really, really special. Not only because it sounds insane and plays like a dream, but also because of its history. So let me grab it and then we'll get into it. Hey, it's Scotty Vine here from scotsbasslessons.com, helping you take your bass playing to the next level. And on this channel, we focus on one thing and one thing only. Bass. So if you are newer here, hit that subscribe button. So before we get into why this bass is so awesome, I wanted to give you guys a bit of nerdy bass fodder around the history of boutique basses, which this is, and specifically how this bass slots into it all. Because trust me, it's pretty cool. Now we all know about the early mass-produced basses of the late 50s and early 60s, like the P bass and the J bass and the Rickenbacker, but the early 70s and mid 80s was also one of the most important times in the development of the bass. It was in this period that we saw an explosion of boutique bass makers using multi-laminate woods in the necks and bodies of their instruments, active electronics for the first time, neck-through construction, and we saw the 5-string and the 6-string also come into fruition. In fact, I go as far to say that since like the mid-80s, the bass actually hasn't changed at all. And I'm not busting anybody's balls about it or anything like that. I'm just stating that by the mid-80s, all of the major developments of the bass that could take place had already taken place. So it all started out with Alembic, which was founded by Rick Turner, Ron Wickersham and Bob Matthews. And they were the first guys on the boutique bass scene, making their first active bass for Jack Cassidy in 1972, and then Stanley Clarke's famous bass he used with Chick Corea in 1973. Now it was also Alembic that developed the first modern 5-string bass for Jimmy Johnson back in the day in 1976. But that said, super geeky bass fact for you, the great bass player Tony Bunn also ordered a 5-string bass from none other than Paul Reed Smith in 1976. But Alembic delivered their 5-string to Jimmy Johnson before Paul delivered his 5-string bass that he was making to Tony. So Alembic were the first to the finish line. Now, another cool fact is that the first modern 6-string bass actually came before the first modern 5-string bass. You'd think it would be the other way around, right? In 1975, a year before the first 5-string, a young 23-year-old Anthony Jackson, who was already a successful session bass player, was the first to commission and own the first 6-string bass. The bass itself was made by the luthier Carl Thompson, who also made the first piccolo bass ever. Unfortunately, Carl's first 6-string bass was difficult to play due to the tight string spacing because, well, it was a prototype after all. So Anthony continued to play his famous Career Girl bass for the next 6 years, which was a 70s ash jazz body with a precision neck and Spectre bass knobs on it. Check this out. Now, around that same year of 1977, Stuart Spector took on his first ever employee, the one and only Vinnie Fodera. Obviously, the man behind Fodera basses and one of the most legendary bass luthiers of the last 40 years. Now, what's interesting is that Vinnie did the woodworking on this bass here, but I'll tell you about that in just a second. First, we need to go back to the great Anthony Jackson. Now, as I said earlier, his first 6-string contrabass prototype, which was designed and made by Carl Thompson in 75, turned out to be awkward to play due to the tight string spacing. So Anthony carried on grooving with his trusty Career Girl J bass for the next 6 years. It was 6 years later, in 1981, that Anthony teamed up with the young and now legendary bass luthier Ken Smith in New York, and Anthony's first usable 6-string contrabass guitar was born. But what about this bass? Well, in 1980, Vinnie Fodera left Spector and started working with Ken Smith. Ken Smith was a busy studio bass player at the time, but when he wasn't recording, he'd go into the workshop to cut wood, make up neck billets, and finish basses off, whilst Vinnie would do the woodworking. Now, it's worth pointing out that for most of the 80s and 90s, Ken Smith basses were one of the most important bass brands in the world, and in my opinion, totally dominated the boutique bass market. Their artists included guys such as Melvin Lee Davis, John Patitucci, Anthony Jackson, Stanley Clarke, Andrew Goucher, Gary Granger, Fred Hammond, Ricky Minor, Freddie Washington, Reggie Young, like the list just goes on and on. So for me, I've always been a huge Ken Smith nerd, and when this came up for sale on Bass Chat, which is a forum over here in the UK, I jumped at the chance to grab this bass, not only because it looked badass, but because of its history as well. And huge shout out as well to Chris, who manages Bass Chat and who I actually got this bass from. Chris was the former owner. Now, this is one of the very few basses that was actually made by Ken Smith and Vinnie Fodera together just before they went their separate ways in 1985, okay? It was finished in early 1984. The serial number is 151, and like all early Smith basses, it has brass fittings on the headstock and the S logo in the brass disc, which I remember seeing on early Chick Corea videos with Big JP tearing it up. The neck has a hidden mortise joint, which apparently Ken Smith said was inspired by a damaged double bass from a car accident in 1970. And the body top is walnut. And obviously the back as well is maple, flame maple, and the neck is flame maple as well with a ebony fingerboard. And ultimately it plays like a total dream. Oh, and it comes with these little bad boys too as well. Kermit, and I'm not sure, I haven't named the bear. Anybody have any bear names? Put them down below in the comments. A quick story, it was Chris who I bought this bass from. He said, you must keep these on. It's like his trademark. So Chris, they're still on. Now dudes, I've also got a question of the day for you as well. In the comments, let me know which super sexy boutique bass is on your bucket list. Like, if you could buy any boutique bass in the world, what would it be? Let me know in the comments. So the sound of this bass is just absolutely huge. It's just so wide. Just it's just really huge. And by all of the basses that I've ever owned, I've had more comments about the tone of this bass actually than any other bass. It really does sound unique, and it has that old instrument feel as well. I'm a huge believer of that old instruments. Just, it must be something to do with the way that they're, maybe the wood ages or something like that. But it just feels played and just warm and just absolutely beautiful. Sounds killer. The controls are really, really simple. We've just got, like, obviously one volume knob. This is the blend between the neck pickup and the bridge pickup. I've got it on both pickups at the minute, which sounds great. Sounds like that. If I put it on the neck pickup only, sounds fat. If I put it on the bridge pickup only, it sounds super tight. Okay, and then this here is the treble circuit, which is really subtle actually. Like really subtle. I just generally keep it in the middle or just back it off completely. And then this is the bass control. The bass on this thing, I'm not sure about what frequency it's dialing in, but it's killer. It's killer. This is it with it on like flat. sounds great. And then this is like an active passive switch. So if you want it on passive, you can put it on passive. I've got it in active obviously right now. And this switch here is the phase switch. When it's down, it's in phase. When it's up, it's out of phase. But they removed that switch after I think after 85 anyway, because nobody was really using it. So, and I'm not using it either. So if you do get the chance to check out an early Ken Smith bass, I really recommend doing it. Just killer basses. And like, I've not played that many new ones either. They're beautiful as well, but this was the first like a vintage Ken Smith that I've checked out. It's just absolutely killer. So yeah, definitely keep your eyes peeled for one of these bad boys, because they're definitely worth getting your hands on and checking them out. Now, if you enjoyed the content in this video, make sure that you smash that like button below. And if you're looking to push your bass playing to the next level and specifically learn how to play this instrument, perform on this instrument, you should absolutely check out the new system that we've just launched into the membership over at scottsbasslessons.com. It's called Player's Path, and it is the only performance-based online learning system for bass players in the world right now. It included over 50 hours of in-depth video tutorials with me. It's the first of its kind. It's taken the team and I over 2 years to develop this thing, and it is going to revolutionize online bass education and ultimately the way that you can learn bass. Now, as I said, this is now included within the membership at scottsbasslessons.com. So if you're already a member, you have access to it now. And if not, you're in luck, as we've got a super duper special offer on right now, and you can grab an annual membership that equates to less than $3 a week. I know that sounds nuts, but just hit the link in the description and you'll be able to get all of the details, okay? Now, it's only on for a short time, so don't leave it. You do want to check it out if you've been thinking about becoming a member. And with that said, as always, take it easy, and I'll see you in the shed.